Good morning. My name is Sydney Ramirez. I work full-time for ULI, Southeast Florida Caribbean, as a senior associate. And I would like to thank all of you guys for coming out and joining us this morning as we dig into West Indies success stories on resiliency and resilient hospitality. And so with that, we always like to take the time to thank our sponsors, for without them, this work would not be possible. And so we have our gold, silver, and our bronze sustaining sponsors. And so just a special thank you to them. We also like to dig a little bit into the mission of the Urban Land Institute, which is to shape the future of the built environment for transformative impact through communities worldwide. And with that mission, we have 3 different priority areas: housing attainability, educating the future diverse leaders of the industry, and decarbonization. And to make those mission priorities impactful, we have different programs and initiatives where we have members lead and get involved, like our Caribbean Council. And so we have our Women's Leadership Initiative, Florida Product Councils, various program committees, our DEI committee, young leaders, and public work and technical assistant panels. And so if any of that resonated with you and you're looking to get a little bit more involved with our district council, you can reach out to me. I would be happy to find a place for you to connect and learn a little bit more about ULI and Southeast Florida and Caribbean.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I am very excited to be introducing both Adam as well as Capuchin here today with the Caribbean Council. So we're very excited to touch base on resiliency and hospitality. A bit about our council is we're a growing team, really focused on collaboration with our region in hopes of building a better Caribbean, including events like, you're here today, as well as the Puerto Rico Symposium coming up early next year. We're very involved in terms of fostering more collaboration. We welcome if you guys have any interest in terms of joining our team or the events to come, definitely reach out. Another event that we're looking to focus on is Jamaica early next year, another Caribbean roundtable. So if there is, a topic that you would like to highlight, definitely, we don't hesitate that you guys go ahead and reach out to us.
Thank you, Emily. This is my name is Adam Greenfitter, and I chair the Caribbean Council here in Southeast Florida, and just really proud of our young leaders, and Emily, being one of the rising stars, as well as Capuchin Thomas, who she's a managing director of CA Real Estate and located in St. Martin. I'm especially proud of just what is progressing with our Caribbean Council. I mean, we have today 12 different island nations on this webinar, including 5 different countries. So this is really a diverse group of people that love the Caribbean and want to know about, how we can make the Caribbean region better. And so I'd like to kind of pass this over to Capuchin, and then she can let the speakers introduce themselves.
Thank you, Adam. As Adam did say, my name is Capuchin Thomas, and he did a fair introduction of myself. And I will pass it on to our speakers. Zev, Gamel, Stefan, could you please introduce yourselves and in 5 words or less, tell us why Caribbean hospitality?
Thank you. I'm Zev Madlabom. I'm a 3rd-generation real estate developer that focuses on residential and hospitality across North America and the Caribbean. Why Caribbean hospitality? Well, I mean, I'm sitting in Toronto right now, freezing my ass off, and there's a snowstorm out. So the answer is absolutely Caribbean hospitality. And I think, as almost everyone I know here in Canada, is going down the Caribbean the next month. So absolutely a focus for me.
Hi, I'm Jamel Sobers, Director of Corporate Banking with CIBC First Caribbean. I'm based in the Cayman Islands, and we cover a lot of project financing and hospitality and real estate in the Caribbean from here, covering 15 markets in the region. In terms of why Caribbean real estate, I would say 5 words: stability, amenities, appreciation or return, quality, and environment. Those were the things that come to mind when I think about it. So,
I'm Stefan Zaharia, managing partner of Luxury Hotel Advisors. We are essentially representing developers and owners with hospitality projects, acquisition of assets and dispositions of assets in the Caribbean and Latin America. Why the Caribbean? The culture is a phenomenal culture, great and really fun people that we are interacting with day in and day out. Super focused on hospitality, and certainly the future of investments from a cost perspective and investment perspective in the region.
So when we talk about the region today that we're highlighting, it's St. Maarten, Anguilla, St. Barths. And the region really kind of feeds off of each other and works together. And specifically, we've been hearing some amazing things come out of St. Maarten. So, Zev, my question to you is, what are you working on these days, and kind of why St. Maarten?
We're working on a 25-acre resort and spa. It's going to have a condominium element to it as well. So we'll have condos, hotel suites, 4 restaurants, and a spa. It's going to be a 5-star luxury resort on Indigo Bay in St. Maarten called Villa Ven. It is going to be the marquee in our portfolio. It's 5 stars. We have 250 keys across 25 acres. We have a conservation lands. We have multiple pools, beachfront. We're going to be bringing in some serious F&B to the area. I'm actually working along it with Stefan on top of us as well as Stefan Zaharia. And we are going to be creating something that is beyond unique. We're bringing internationally famous acclaimed architect HKS, as well as probably one of the most renowned interior designers when it comes to hotels, known for the Rosewoods, the banyan trees, the montages, Alessandro Munge from Studio Munge. St. Maarten is a unique island. It's very unique, and it's misunderstood in many respects. Where Anguilla is Anguilla, it's a British territory in some respects. It looks British, it has what it is, and St. Barths has its identity. St. Maarten is a blend of cultures. It's a mosaic between the Dutch, the French, the cultures, the people, why people are there, from the people who are going there in order to move to the next island, to the people who are there to stay there, to the people that come to explore the island, from the different nationalities and languages and food and culture that exists on that island. I think St. Maarten is the most unique island in the entire Caribbean. And it is the most diverse island in the entire Caribbean, which to me creates a wild side to the Caribbean.
On kind of the resiliency nature. I mean, there are concerns that there are more hurricanes coming in, year after year. They're getting harder, stronger, there's more water. Kind of what's your approach on resiliency, and kind of what are you thinking about that today?
So the resiliency is a couple of things. I want to go to a beach. I want to experience life. I want to get out of this shit, excuse my language, that's surrounding me every single day here in my urban cities. You don't want to go to the Americas. You want to go to the Caribbean. That is the place where you can escape the world. So I think the resiliency, as the world gets more and more twisted, is the escape to the Caribbean. In terms of resiliency and construction to the hurricane, well, I can tell you some of the construction things that we're doing and we're dealing with. We do construction all over the place. But the world is different than it was pre-Irma. The industry has dramatically changed, especially when it comes to building in hurricane areas. And we're talking with everything from rock anchors to steel ties to now creating things that are not just hurricane proof, but super hurricane proof. And we can go into a lot of details, I guess, in the breakout session of what that is exactly. But yes, water diversions, cistern systems, updated civil, we can go on and on and on and on and on about how we're creating buildings today that will more than withstand hurricanes.
Gamel, if you could please let us know how the bank is involved in the region and what you guys are doing to collaborate with local institutions to mitigate risk.
Sure. So we are very heavily involved in the region, and we have been for the last several years. Even coming out of COVID, we were very successful with all of our portfolio in that we gave moratorium when it was necessary. And, subject to regulatory approvals up to about 18 months. And all of the clients we've worked with, we have been very successful, and our portfolio is very good. We're currently still involved in a post-COVID. Now we're involved in a number of financings. While I can't disclose the names, we've had lots of, even in Curacao, we've done transactions. They're pretty sizable acquisitions. A 55 million club deal acquisition in St. Lucia. We're currently working on something in excess of 200 million. These are all US in Jamaica. So there's a lot of activity that we're seeing. And the way we're dealing with this is obviously we're using like syndications or club deals with a number of banks to be able to get this done. I think before COVID, we would see banks participate with ticket sizes, maybe 25 to 30 in the regional space for regional banks that have smaller balance sheets. And then the larger regional banks could probably go up to 80 to 90 million. That's been a little bit smaller post-COVID. We're seeing more like 15 to 25 million. But we also have some international banks that partner with us on some transactions, and obviously they have larger balance sheets, so they're able to participate more in these transactions. So I would say we're seeing lots of activity in hospitality. The confidence is back there in the region as a whole. So I'm not just speaking about St. Maarten, I'm speaking about the entire region. And we are actively leading transactions in that space as well. And as you say, if you're doing things of 100 million and up in acquisitions, that for this region, that's fairly good sign of confidence in the market itself. So that's many of the things we've been involved in at this point in time. I don't know if there was a second part to your question.
Well, thank you for that first part.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any places that you see more islands that have maybe more financing requests at the moment, or is it really just a broad spectrum all over the Caribbean?
We do have activity in St. Maarten. I mean, we have projects that we're in right now. We have some that we're looking at right now. But I would say it's still pretty broad for us across the region, the Dutch Caribbean, Jamaica, St. Maarten, St. Lucia, which is in the Eastern Caribbean. So it's a pretty broad distribution, but the larger projects would tend to be in Jamaica and the markets that have a larger scale in the Cayman Islands. And while there are many projects going on here, a lot of them are privately financed, but there's a lot of activity in the hospitality space here as well. A lot of it is privately led, which is real estate condo hotels that are developed that way, as opposed to necessarily being a major brand that you would see attached. But it's really, we have environmental, social governance policies that are being developed now as we speak. And we look for projects that can actually do things like energy efficiency that would integrate those types of sustainability into their design. So we're talking about solar, we're talking about building standards such that it will be more energy efficient, geothermal energy. We've seen a couple of things, options being shown to us on projects. So lots of things are happening, and we continue to work with our clients on these.
Kind of what resiliency means when we look at more than one island working together.
Sure. So as mentioned, you know, I've been active in the region for the past in the region for the past 30 years and spending 17 years in Anguilla, and I really had the privilege to be working on the small island of Anguilla and working with the exceptional, proud Anguillan people. In terms of synergies between the islands, you know, first of all, between St. Maarten and Anguilla, there's a great synergy that is related to a very simple thing: family ties. You know. When you go to St. Maarten, you're going to have the gums and you're going to have some last names that will resonate exactly the same way in Anguilla. So there's that cultural and family ties that is very, very, very strong and very evident when you deal with between businesses between St. Maarten and Anguilla. St. Maarten essentially is a platform, a commercial platform for an island like Anguilla. You know, all the imports. You know, most of the imports are coming through St. Maarten or directly to Anguilla through Miami, and then most importantly, the access to Anguilla is predominantly done through the Princess Juliana Airport on the Dutch side in St. Maarten. So you know, there's a lot of synergies, even though we like to consider St. Maarten, Anguilla, and St. Barths, as I have mentioned, you know, somewhat competitors. But in terms of performance, we are definitely very much alike in terms of the client base, the investment base that is coming to Anguilla and St. Barths is very similar with high net worth investments.
All you know, there's a lot of talk about building better, more energy efficient, and more hurricane resistant, of course, in hospitality projects. What does resiliency mean for you, and how important is it to your bottom line?
Sustainability and resiliency has twofold meaning to it. Number one is the construction going to be a product that is not only well built, but stands the test of time? You know, everyone always says, oh, things are not built like they were built in the 20s. Well, we're back in the 20s. It's not 1920, it's now 2022. And I want to be able to say in 30 years from now, wow, nothing was built like it was built in the 2020s, right? That's the concept that you really want to create. Something that not is only resilient that withstands the hurricanes, but also maintains the same aesthetic post-hurricane as it did pre-hurricane, meaning that your landscape is intact, meaning that your landscape, your civil engineering, your entire building functions the same as we just closed our doors for the hurricane and put our window shutters, and it's back to normal. That is one thing on the construction side. But on the sustainability side of it, what you really want to have is something that is not only cost efficient, maintains itself cost efficient, but is easily maintainable in the region. So you're looking for items that are green, that help the climate, because obviously we're in a Caribbean island. We're not in an urban city. Climate and the atmosphere and the environment is of utmost importance. That's why we're there. But at the same token, is something that we can be maintained and can sustain itself, right? So those are the concepts we're looking for when it comes to that. The other thing that we're looking for is to create products. For an example, if we're looking for construction materials, the materials are going to be materials that are more durable. So less woods and more durable materials such as stones. One of the things that we like to focus on is trying to find natural stone that we have within the island. So if we're building in St. Maarten, we're looking for natural stone that's in St. Maarten that we can reuse, as opposed to, you know, excavating that stone, trucking it off site, or, you know, putting it somewhere else. We're trying to reutilize those stones inside the building.
Thank you, Zev. Now, Gemel, if you could give us your answer to that question, please.
Yeah, well, I think as a bank, it's probably there's the sustainability in terms of the projects and some of the things we look at. If we're evaluating a project, we're looking at, as bankers, we look at cash flow and things like that. So we're always looking for ways for project to be more efficient in terms of their costs and things like that. So energy efficiency and the management of that is key for us. I mentioned that, you know, and renewables are important, because that's a lot of the countries in the region have got renewable energy targets to achieve by various years, 2030. Some of them benchmarks, all of them will not be achieved, but those are there. So when we look at projects, we look for things that will matter along those dimensions. And when we look at our financing, ESG is a big item for us now. It's being developed. But I think at a macro level as a bank, from a regulatory perspective, we also have to look at this, because our regulators require us to do stress tests on the events, you know, rising temperatures, rising sea levels. So we have to do scenario tests in that vein as well. So I think those types of things which the regulators looking at us, you know, that would impact our capital, will cause us to look more at the types of projects we're looking at, the design, sea level, where the project is located. All of those things will come, because all of the collateral we have is the hospitality real estate itself, and if that's going to be technically just say on the water and in some prediction, then, you know, we have to do the stress test. So it's very, very important for our bottom line. And then we will translate that into the specific project, how we look at key aspects of location, energy efficiency, design, as Zev said, what types of materials they're using. And that's becoming much more important, and it's developing as we speak. So I don't want to say that we've got everything down pat, but it's a very important consideration for us as a bank. Yes. And we may actually give a better rate if we can,
yeah,
we can
sure.
put those things. That's the concept.
Again,
of the
sorry, I
ESG.
wasn't hearing that. Just say that a little louder.
No,
How big of a better rate are we talking about?
that's not being recorded.
We won't hold you to it just yet.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gamel.
After the experience that we all had here after the passing of Hurricane Irma, it really came back to us and saying, you know, when you have a developer that constructs a 5-star property or any property on the islands, you have to ensure that your building materials is the right and building materials that can sustain now not 185 miles per hour, but 215 miles per hour. And this is now a given. This is a standard as we see things happening. The honor to actually put a 1 megawatt solar panel system in Anguilla with a property that we owned and operated until 2020. And not only that it makes a huge difference to your bottom line, especially now that our cost of a kilowatt in islands like ours is touching 40 cents to 50 cents a kilowatt. It also has a marketing story for the property and for the developer, in saying not only I'm bringing money down to the NOI, but also I am sustainable and I have a great story to tell to our customers. You know, clients are very sensitive right now to how you operate your hotels and the resorts, and to ensure that you are very aware of the climate change and support protecting it.
I don't know if I'm looking at the chat, and I think you guys are answering, you know, so many important questions that are popping up with our everybody who's listening. And I think of just a few quick things that I heard in this was, you know, using indigenous materials, really looking at that ESG, efficiency of energy, and potentially, you know, being able to get better rates if you do comply with your environmental kind of advanced environmental construction. And then also these new metrics that Stefan mentioned. I think it's really interesting. We can't use old metrics. Wind speeds are faster. We've got to, in the private sector, be leading the conversation. And then lastly, I think what Stefan said about the marketing aspect. I mean, I think that's kind of important today. A lot of people do have new values, new priorities. And as developers and financiers and consultants, we have to kind of meet those demands head on. My question to the group is really about kind of post-COVID. And we've all been listening to kind of this new world that we're in, where people want to be able to hang out and travel. The Caribbean has been exploding in terms of the amount of people that want to get involved in the Caribbean. And this concept of leisure, you know, we're mixing our work, we're mixing our leisure. And so I kind of wanted to throw this back at the group, you know, Zev and Gamel and then Stefan, kind of, you know, what is your concept post-COVID, what the world looks like, and kind of how are you adapting to it?
After years of lockdowns and a lot of people rethinking their priorities in life and rethinking who they are, they realize that it's no longer I have to work to live. It's now I want to enjoy everything that I do in life. And I want to love my work just like I love my life. So that's creating a new world in the Caribbean. Because now all of a sudden, if you love the Caribbean, you're going to figure out how to work in the Caribbean. And now with all the way the world has transitioned, things like that are starting to be made possible in hotels, which is something that we typically do in our condo portfolios, but we don't typically do in our hotel portfolios. There's a business center, but there's no such thing as a co-working lounge. And now co-working lounges are what is called the new business center. So it's not a business center where you go and you have a computer and you have a printer. It's a lounge that really brings in working as if you're in a WeWork, but you're in the hotels. So it's certainly changing the way resorts are shaped, changing the way amenities are shaped. It's no longer, okay, just have 500, lounge chairs in front of the pool with no private areas where a person can take a phone call. It's now creating more crevices for people to be able to step away and take phone calls.
Because COVID taught us a lot. Even as bankers, we were working from home. Our financing model and our underwriting standards themselves don't change, but I think our assessment of the quality of the project, the countries, the tourism stability and all that will be impacted by the digital infrastructure that they have put in place to make the passenger experience or the tourism experience much better, both for air travel and also for cruise travel as well. And that's going to become more important in my view.
I would like to say from an operation standpoint that we have seen an absolutely booming year of 2020, 2021 and 2022. I mean, there's nothing, we have not experienced something like that for many, many, many years. What we do see is that the shoulder season what you see October, November, that traditionally will be a slow period of time. That shoulder period has completely disappeared. We are hitting the high season in the region now, pretty much mid-October, when people are a little bit more comfortable and the news are not, you know, bombarding us about hurricanes heading our ways. So we're seeing a really nice progressive and strong you know, early high season, rather than the traditional high season that is in December and then move on until April and May.
If you could kind of wave the proverbial magic wand and say, this is what I would like to have in you know, in our region, in the Caribbean region, when it comes to hospitality, you know, what would that look like?
Jamal spoke about the St. Martin Airport, which we've all been waiting with a bated breath for many years now to be fixed. But it's all about airlift. And as long as the islands can maintain their airlift or get more airlift today, which is a European market, an American market, a Canadian market, or I should say a world market, we need to have flights coming in all the time. And I think every government, it's incumbent upon them, it behooves them not to make sure that their priority in each island is making sure airlift is there. And that those airplanes come, even if they're empty, and let the airplanes then have to discount flights, but discount it so you don't lose your slots.
And I mean, from a financing perspective, you know, one of the things that's always challenging for us especially on a new construction is budget costs and things like that. And in this environment today with inflation, I don't know, 8%, 10%, what, and supply chain logistics, our magic one, I guess, would have to be around something of that dimension, because the cost of these projects can be quite significant. And, you know, a 10% change or a 5% change can also be very, very, very significant. So I think for us, focusing on costs and budgets for projects is a key concern. And, you know, we do have ways to mitigate those. But if I'm just thinking of the financing side, that's going to be key.
And costs are increasing faster than the rate of sales. As much as real estate has gone up, costs have increased more. But that's driven by 3 or 4 main factors. I mean, one is commodity pricing. Commodity pricing is not up to us. That's the world of commodities. Number 2 is labor. 3 is supply chain, is being able to get it, right? And then 4 is quantity. So commodities everyone suffers from. So, you know, just that's it. But the specific sufferings are supply chain. Can you get the product to you? So for example, if I'm building in St. Martin, I have a 4-day turnaround from Miami, 10 days from Germany. I actually have a port that services the entire area. I have tremendous supply chain access. So to me, as a developer, I develop in St. Martin, I think 3 times before I develop in Grenada, right? Because I can't get the products there. I could get the products there. My other problem is in regards to labor. Obviously, it's hard to get labor in the Caribbean. That's not an easy task to do, but it is manageable because it's more flexible. The labor you get in the Caribbean, one guy can do 6 different things. Whereas in another project, one guy can only do drywall, one guy can only do finishing. Those are the 2 biggest issues. However, what we're seeing across the spectrum is that the inflation rates and the cost of materials are coming down significantly. I mean, I can tell you steel pricing, for example, has been plummeting. Wood has been plummeting. So the commodity prices are coming down. And also what's happened also a little bit that we're starting to see is that more and more labor has migrated to the Caribbean. A lot more people are actually living in the Caribbean that are skilled. So we're starting to see more and more skilled labor moving to the Caribbean, which is fixing a lot of that labor crisis parts of it. So the remaining issue is still the quantities of it. But as the slowdown is happening and as interest rates rise, a lot of the, 4 cap rate products are not being built anymore, such as purpose-built rental, such as low cap development projects. Low cap development projects are almost dead in the water. You're going to see that a lot of those trades and a lot of those people that are used to doing big orders can't fill them anymore. We're seeing that all over the industry today, specifically in the last 3 months. So a guy says, okay, I can't do 3,000 kitchens on low margin anymore. I'm better off doing a smaller contract for 50 kitchens, but take a little bit of a higher price, but at least I have my money in the bag, right? So there's a lot more dependency on those trades that are coming in, and there's a wider array of trades, which I think will lead to a much more stabilization of costs in the Caribbean, and perhaps even a downward trend as we continue with these high interest rates.
Thank you so much on behalf of ULI. I want to thank Capuchin, Emily, Sydney, Zev, Gabel, and Stefan, for joining us. And thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
All the best.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a great day.